they've done it. They did it. The final episode, the last episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I'd like to take this opportunity to say for the final time that I really think they should have just called it Kenobi. It's so much catchier. It just rolls off the tongue so much more than Obi-Wan Kenobi. I know it's his name, but I don't know, man. Just shortening it down would have been so much cooler. Also, I'd like to take this opportunity for the final spoiler alert for this season. There are going to be spoilers in this episode because it was huge, and it would be impossible not to get into spoiler territory with this episode. So where do we leave ourselves off from the previous episode? Straight away, it goes straight. The grammar in that sentence was atrocious. We pick up straight off after the previous episode. We are on the run from Vader and his crew of Dark Emperors, and he wants to fight. He wants to fight Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan takes him up on that bait. That's bait. That's a bit of Tom Hardy for you there. So yeah, he takes him up on his bait. They go for a fight on I genuinely really can't remember the name of the planet, but they go down onto the planet. It felt very Clone Wars to me in the art style. It was very rocky, but also sort of quite desolate and almost post-apocalyptic. And it was gorgeous, absolutely beautiful planet. I want to, for the final time, say the set design in this episode was really great. I've consistently loved the set design in this episode. If you haven't watched my reviews of the other episodes, it's just been fantastic throughout. But yeah, they're on this planet, and this is a very action-focused episode because the core of the episode is a rematch. We get to see the rematch. Now, I will say, I feel slightly ripped off that this was done in a Disney Plus TV show. We as Star Wars fans, we've been waiting for that rematch between Obi-Wan and Anakin for 18 years, 17 years, something like that. We've been waiting so long for that rematch, and to get it in a TV show, as much as it's the finale and it's the end of the first season as well. I don't know, man. Don't get me wrong, it was a great fight, but I just really wish we got it in a movie or something like that. But that's just me nitpicking. And there are going to be a few nitpicks here. For example, when they're on the ship before they go down onto the planet. Now, this could have just been me, and I think there's every chance it could have been. The shots look quite washed out in a lot of the shots. Like when they were dark, it looked super grainy, and sometimes I could barely make out what was going on. That could have been my TV. I'll admit that it may not have reacted well to the camera, but I don't know what was going on with the cameras in this episode, but it was weird. But yeah, they do eventually, after some heartfelt conversations between Obi-Wan and Leia and stuff like that, land on the planet and have a big fight. And the fight is gorgeous. It is an absolutely beautiful fight and something to behold. Now, the choreography itself, I think, is a combination of some of the stuff we saw in episode in the prequels and some of the stuff we saw in the original trilogies. There's the flair and the majorette spinning, and just the goofiness of the prequel trilogies mixed in with some of the stiffness of the original trilogies, and it looks absolutely beautiful. And I'm glad they did it this way, because when Obi-Wan does sort of spin into moves and stuff like that, it really becomes more impactful when every other move he uses isn't quite as flary as that, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, the choreography is great, and a brilliant fight, easily the best fight of the series. I haven't been in this impressed by a fight in Star Wars since Ahsoka versus that one person, I can't remember the name of them, but the person who sort of ran the town. That was a great fight, but this was right up. I think this was better than that, actually. My nitpicks, however, I can really think of one. Okay, so there's a bit, it's a great bit where Obi-Wan slashes Anakin's helmet, and you see half of his face, and this is really going around on the internet a lot, and he's leaning in and out of a blue light and a red light, and between darkness and light, and he's having this conversation where it breaks through between Hayden Christensen and James L. Jones. Man, James L. Jones, thank you for this season, James. I love you so much. But yeah, and initially, when I tell you that, it might sound as though that might not really land, and it kind of 100% didn't really for me. It didn't really land entirely as I might have wanted it to. There was a big disparity between the two voices, and they don't really explain why. There must be a voice filter in that helmet, contextually based off of this episode, and because of this series, they've kind of had to reveal that. Yeah, there is a voice filter in there. Why is there a voice filter in there? It's just really weird, and I don't know why they do that. And also, I just think the conversation is a little bit too long, and I don't think the dialogue is all that good. I know, like, it's Star Wars, I get it, but some of the dialogue is just like, oh, really? Did you really just say that? And I personally, if it was me, and look, I'm not going to be one of those guys who's like, it wasn't written the way I wanted to, therefore the feminists are taking over. No, I think if it was me, he would have dashed the helmet off because it did look cool, and then said something, like, you are truly lost, Anakin, or something like that, or you are truly lost, Darth, or something. And then Anakin would fall to his knees, and the light illuminating his face blue would then illuminate red as he fell to his knees, and he would say something, just a one-liner, a strong one-liner. Maybe not, I hate you, but potentially something along those lines. And then Obi-Wan would just walk away. This does also, by the way, suffer with Clone Wars syndrome, where Obi-Wan keeps winning and keeps walking away. This is now the second time we've seen him do this in Star Wars, and it's probably going to happen again, unfortunately. But, those are my nitpicks out of the way. Regardless of that, it was a gorgeous fight, an absolutely beautiful fight, and definitely the high point of this series. I'm glad they didn't just redo Mustafar, because they easily could have, and they might. No, but they took it to a random rocky planet, and it was a beautiful fight. Really, really well done. So I'm really happy with that. Other than that, it's all just rounding off stuff. Obi-Wan finally gets to meet Luke. There's a weird moment, I'm not going to spoil exactly what it says, but you probably already know, where he says one of his most famous quotes. But contextually, it's just a little bit creepy, honestly. Like, he shouldn't be saying that to a kid in that tone of voice. It's really shoehorned in. There are a couple of shoehorned in quotes in this episode, but that just made me feel a little bit uncomfortable, honestly. It was really weird. But the send-off's sweet. It's nicely paced. It's beautifully paced, actually. And we see an Obi-Wan pack up his things, leave the cave, and head off into the distance, into adventure. Now, if you don't think we're going to see Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan again, you are deluded, my friend. This is definitely going to happen again. If not Hayden Christensen's Obi-Wan, we're going to see one of his age in either an animated or live action form, but this is going to happen, and I'm 90% sure it's going to be with a season 2 of Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan Kenobi, sorry. But it's a nice ending, and yeah, like I said, it's absolutely beautifully paced, and it sees Obi-Wan rejuvenated into the Jedi that he was before and heading off into adventure. So, overall, I loved the episode. I thought it was a beautiful closer. I did have a couple of, issues here and there. It did feel very contrived and very nostalgia baity, but what do you expect, man? It's Star Wars. Of course you're going to get nostalgia bait. You go into it expecting it. So that's absolutely fine. And it was a great episode. And the series overall, given that this is the last episode, I really liked it. I don't think it's my favorite Star Wars show of all time. And I do have my issues with it. It did get a little bit mid at times. But other than that, I've had a good time with the show. I thought all of the characters were pretty great. Oh my god, I forgot to talk about the entire... I'm so sorry. The Reva storyline. Reva goes after Luke, and there's some great moments where sort of Ben is trying to... Or Ben and Aunt Beru. By the way, can I just say, closing off this review of this show, I can't believe I called him Uncle Ben in my first review. What was I thinking? Uncle Ben? That's either Spider-Man's dad, uncle, and Spider-Man's uncle, or some rice. But it's not Uncle Owen. Aunt Beru, who I think is actually played by the same actress, and I think actually maybe Uncle Owen is too, from Revenge of the Sith, both trying to protect Luke and as Reva goes after him. And there's a great moment where she carries him through the sand, but you find out that no, she didn't kill him. I mean, it was obvious she wasn't going to kill him because we know what happens next. But it's still a nice moment. It's more of a diegetic reveal than a non-diegetic reveal, but it was nice. It was a really beautiful moment. So yeah, overall, happy with the show. I think all the characters were great. Visually, it was an absolutely beautiful show. The cinematography was great. The soundtrack was gorgeous. The set design was absolutely beautiful. I do think the story itself was okay. It wasn't like groundbreaking or particularly like massively interesting, not too twisty and curvy, just quite a straightforward story, but I guess they were playing it safe, and that's okay. It's more of a character story than a narrative story, but I could have done with something a little bit more meat on the bone potentially. But I still enjoyed the story as a whole. But speaking of story, like the bigger question is, did they need to do this, and was it worth it? I don't think the story was 100% worth telling. I didn't talk about this when it came out because I didn't make videos like this, but I had a real issue with Solo when it came out, because for me with Solo, the issue there was that Solo is like this mysterious character with lots of histories and echoes and past behind him, and that's what made the character so great, was that you never really, along with his sort of lovable rogueness, you never really knew whether he was telling the truth, or what was fabricated, or sort of what was hyperbole and what was true and what was false. And unfortunately, this story cleared all of that out for you. Solo just told you, actually, don't worry about it. Here's every piece of information you need, which actually retroactively spoiled the character a bit. And going back and watching episode 4, which one of my favorite hobbies of all time, it's you kind of watch them and go, I know about the Kessel Run, and I know about you winning the Millennium Falcon in a poker game. Like, I know about all of this now because I've seen it, and that just makes it less mysterious. And the same issue was obviously could have arisen with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the difference is it is a different story. He's not someone with these echoes, well, he is and he isn't. They're different, The story has changed now. The story has changed. But he's not someone whose story was entirely built on having these things that you didn't know about necessarily. That's not what gave him his characteristics. But it was a strong part of his character in episode 4. And his character has now changed. And I don't think it's for the better. I think Ben Kenobi in episode 4, previously what was one of the great things about the character was that he was this like source of knowledge, but that again wasn't entirely reliable, but he knew all of this, but it was scattered and it was cracked and it was echoes and it was broken, and what happened, and you're piecing it bit by bit based off of Ben's memory, and he's this very mysterious character because of that. And obviously now we know what would have happened during that period, but we already knew what happened during the Clone Wars and stuff like that in the prequel era anyway. That's already been taken from us. And going on adventures, all that really does is spoil the idea that he's been hiding away in the cave, sort of brooding over what happened in the past, which I did really like about that character. And now that is gone, but I don't think we've lost as much as we did with Solo, that we haven't already lost from the prequel era anyway. I think everything beyond the first 3 films sort of damaged those 3 films anyway, so I can still go back and watch episode 4, and it was sort of the same experience that I would have had, 2 months before this series came out. And that's good. That's a good thing. I think when they continue on and do more seasons of the show, that might begin to become a little bit different. But we'll see. We'll see how they handle it. But overall, do I think the show was worth making? Yes and no. I'm sorry for the ambiguity. Yes, but yes and no. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was very enjoyable, and for that sake, would you want it rather than not having it? You'd have to be the sort of Star Wars fan that goes back and watches those original films a lot, which I do, in order to get any sort of impact from this to begin with. But I'd say I'm sort of glad they made it, and I've had a good time with it, like I said. And yeah, I think it was a good show. I think overall it was a good show. Again, like nothing groundbreaking or overly special, but a lot of fun, and I hope it stays that way. I hope with season 2 they don't just completely trash on everything. But anyway, that is yet to be seen. So I did enjoy Obi-Wan Kenobi, but not massively. Anyway, I guess I will see everyone later in a galaxy that's not here.